The Greedy Man and the Goat. This tale is from Russia. The old man's wife died the very day his goat disappeared. He wept. How could he pay for a decent funeral if he had no goat's milk to sell? He trudged through the snow to his greedy neighbor's house. Perhaps he could borrow some money, but as he walked along, he saw footprints that seemed familiar, leading directly to his neighbor's yard, and when he knocked on the door, he smelled savory goat stew cooking over the fire. The old man was trembling by the time his neighbor appeared. "Where's my goat?" he cried. "What goat?" the neighbor asked, and he quickly rubbed the back of his hand across his chin, wiping off a glob of gravy. "My only goat!" the poor man shouted. "The goat who was going to help me pay for my wife's funeral." "Who knows what happened to your goat?" growled his neighbor. It's not in the field with mine, and don't bother me for money. I have none to spare." He slammed the door as quickly. He slammed the door so quickly that he didn't hear the old man's anguished curse. "May the fate of my goat befall you." The poor man returned home moaning. "At least I can dig a proper grave for my wife." He picked up his tools and went to the graveyard. The ground was frozen, but he chopped with his axe and scooped up with his shovel, removing icy chunks of dirt. His fingers and toes ached from the cold, but he dug deeper and deeper into the earth. Just as the sun was about to set, he noticed something round at the bottom of the hole. He pulled the top out of the dirt and pried off the lid. And what did he find inside? Gold coins. The old man was overjoyed. Now he could give his wife the finest funeral in the village had ever seen, with a gleaming coffin and an elaborate church service. After the funeral was over, he invited everyone to his hut for dinner, even his greedy neighbor, for the old man had begun to wonder if he had judged him too harshly. When the neighbor saw all the fine food and drink, the crusty bread and tempting sweets, he piled his plate high. But even as he gorged himself, he was not happy. He could not imagine where the poor man had found the money to pay for such a feast. The neighbor continued eating until everyone else had left. Then he turned on the old man and grabbed him by the shoulders. Where did you steal the money from?" he bellowed. "Nowhere," cried the old man. "That would be a sin." He raced to his cupboard. "I found this pot of gold when I dug my wife's grave. The greedy man's face flushed with anger. He could hardly stand the poor man's good fortune. He wanted that pot of gold for himself. He thought about it every day and dreamed about it every night. Finally, he thought of a way to get it. "Wife," he said, "I'm going to kill our biggest goat and skin it. Horns, beard, and all." I'm sorry. Horns, beard, and all. Thunder. Then I want you to sew the goat skin around me." The greedy man's wife was sure he had gone mad, so she dared not argue with him. When he brought the goat skin into the house, she ran to find her needle and thread. Stitch by stitch, she sewed the skin around her husband, and when she finished, it covered every inch of his body. The greedy man waited until everyone in the village was asleep. Then he trotted directly to the old man's hut. He put his cloven hooves up on the windowsill and he butted the glass with his horns. "Give me the gold," he demanded, speaking through the lips of the goat. The old man shuddered. He thought a demon was peering through his window, an ugly demon who had discovered its gold was missing from the graveyard. The old man leapt out of bed. "Take it!" he cried, throwing it out the door. The goat picked up the pot of gold with his teeth and hurried home. He butted the door open and galloped inside to his wife. "Help me out of this goat skin," he shouted. "It's getting tight. It's pinching me." His wife grabbed a knife and started cutting the stitches, but no matter how carefully she cut, blood flowed. "Ow!" he screamed. "Stop hurting me!" She grabbed her sewing scissors and cut the stitches even more carefully than before, but still the blood spurted forth, splattering her dress and dripping on the floor. "Tug it off," he wept. "I can't stand being cooped up in this smelly hide." But even when she pulled and tugged and tore at the goat skin, it stuck to his body like glue. In desperation, the greedy man galloped to the poor man's hut and flung the pot of gold on his doorstep. But still the goat skin stuck tight. Worse yet, his cries sounded more and more like those of a goat. He raced home bleeding, with a pack of dogs nipping at his heels. "Even dogs think I'm an animal," he moaned. He tried to tell his wife, but she could no longer understand him. He shook with terror from head to tail. The goat skin had grown onto his body. He would have horns and hooves and craggly goat hair for the rest of his life. "Serves you right, you greedy old man," said his wife. She put a rope around his neck and led him to the goat pen behind the barn. When she went out to feed the goats the next morning, she could not tell one goat from the other. "What will I do," she wondered, "when the butcher comes?"